Well, it's now 5 minutes past 11, so I think we can start. We expect some more people to join during the seminar, but that's fine, of course. While both of our countries are very far apart, we are currently dealing with the exact same problem. One of the most obvious practical problems is that of logistics from and to the Netherlands and India, but also within India. As it is the NICCT's mission to support business relations between the Netherlands and India, we organize this seminar to inform you and help you with some practical issues regarding logistics from and to India and within India. For this, we have some excellent speakers. Our first speakers are from Rhenus. Rhenus is a group of companies with over 5.5 billion euros turnover, more than 33,000 employees worldwide, and strong operations in India with 69 locations in India and more than 1,600 people employed within India. From Rhenus, there are two speakers. First one is Vivek Arya, the Managing Director of Rhenus India. And we have Roderkerk, the CEO of North Europe, Rhenus Air Ocean. Our next speaker is from NXT Group of Companies. NXT is a major player in helping companies expand their operations internationally into emerging markets. And they have a very strong presence in India and are currently helping their customers dealing with the situation around COVID-19. So I'm sure they will have lots of experience and practical solutions to the problems that we are dealing with right now. We have a bit of a tight schedule, so we do a combined question round. If you have any questions, please ask them in the chat, and then we will unmute your microphone so you can ask them. We do the question round after the presentations because if there are lots of questions, we have the ability to extend the seminar a bit for the people who are interested and would like to ask more questions. But first, I would give the microphone to Rhenus, to Vivek Arya, who will give a presentation about the current situation regarding the lockdown measures and logistics in India.
Yep. Thank you, Jelke. I will like to share my screen. So good morning to people from Netherlands and good afternoon for everyone in India. So I will start with the
Yeah, we can see it, Vivek.
Yeah, thank you. So I would like to start with the journey from the time the lockdowns actually began in India. And this is so this presentation talks about India, focused on India with few slides also from Netherlands side. So the first lockdown, which was a national lockdown, was called in on the 25th of March until the 14th of April. When we started the lockdown, we had 606 cases of COVID in India. And during this period, the customs was only allowed to do clearances of essential goods. All factories and services were suspended. However, in reality, nothing happened on the ground level. The customs, the airports, the ports, everything came to a standstill. So it was a real abrupt standstill which came about from the 25th of March until 14th April. There came on lockdown 2.0, which started on the 15th of April until 3rd May. During this time, the lockdown was during the lockdown, you were allowed to carry on the agriculture work, and some of the essential industries were also started operations. During this period, from a logistics perspective, transportation began, movement of inter and intrastate also began, and customs clearance activities also began, but with a lot of challenges. The lockdown was further extended from 4th May until 17th May, which was lockdown 3.0. During this time, the country was mapped into various zones from red, orange, and green, and the states were allowed to demarcate the zones, and operations were allowed to happen mainly in the green zones. During this, from a logistics perspective, both movement of essential, non-essential items began. As part of the decongestion program from the government, they started clearance activities at a better pace. However, there was a lot of congestion at both ports and CFS, which led to a lot of delays of cargo. From there on, the lockdown was extended further to lockdown 4.0 from 18th May to 31st of May. Here, further demarcations were left to the state governments. In this period, also the passenger railway services started, the domestic air freight activity started, and the state borders were also open for movement of cargo. However, there were big challenges regarding the people. So there was a lot of fear and uncertainty. So the attendance was very low at all the ports, CFS, customs, etc. Then on the 1st of June, the government announced the Unlock 1.0. During this Unlock 1.0, there was a phase-wise opening in various zones. Logistics activities started gearing up to the new normal. Thereon, the government extended the Unlock 2.0 from 1st July to 31st July. So the period we are in at the moment is called the Unlock 2.0. During this, a lot more relaxations have been given. Most of the industries, factories have started operations, including automobile, essential, medical, everything. Logistics continues to happen, but with a lot of challenges at the ground level. And also in the meantime, a lot of states have been calling for ad hoc lockdowns. So you will observe that when we started the lockdown, we were about 606 cases. And as on date, we are close to 1 million cases in India. India is currently reporting about 25 to 30,000 new cases every day. What happens in the Unlock 2.0? So there have been a little more flexibility on the curfew times. However, states like West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Jharkhand, Maharashtra have called for severe lockdowns because of increase of COVID cases. All the regional congregations have been prohibited. As of now, schools and colleges are slated to open after 31st of July. All active sports activities and gyms and multiplexes have been put on hold until further instructions. International travel has begun only for repatriation, and depending on the size and ability to ensure physical distancing, shops can also open now. So offices are also allowed to open with minimal staff. What is the outcome of these lockdowns over the last almost 4 months now? We saw a big momentum on the digitization. There is a big challenge because of rapid rise and increase of infections. And the worst of all has been the fear and uncertainty which has been instilled in the minds of most of the people around the country. Yeah, over to you, Frank.
Can you unmute yourself, Frank?
Yes, I can.
Right.
Is this better? Thank you very much for the hint. Focusing on, I was saying, focusing on the northwestern European countries with a major location in the Netherlands. From an air freight point of view, we are a strong player in the Dutch market. That's historically built over the last 30 to 40 years. Location picture, you can see it there. Obviously, I can add no more information to the Dutch fellow colleagues here in the meeting about what happened in North Europe or in the Netherlands, but maybe a little bit background for the friends in India. It's a lot like Vivek has just explained to you. So we have also gone through a period of a lot of uncertainty. I think we are happy in Europe now that things are relaxing a little bit. but the uncertainty is really the key, I think, in going forward. We are all hoping that this famous second wave that everybody is talking about will not happen. But obviously, we are prepared in the case that it would happen. I think we've learned a lot from the beginning of this year. Within Europe, you can see that there is more and more movement possible. Trips are allowed also on air freight for holidays, etc. But the big concern is really how that will affect a possible surge in the COVID infections, etc. But we will have to see in the near future.
Oops. Somebody.
Vivek, you're activating the presentation?
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go to the next slide, Vivek.
Yeah, so talking about in the next slides, I will just talk a little about the various activities within the logistics. So on the ocean freight, we saw a lot more stable rates. However, there were equipment issues. In the last couple of weeks, we saw a huge surge in volumes for the Americas, and that's a big challenge at the moment because space and equipment is not available. Some of the carriers also stopped bookings for European sectors. We have seen a lot of blank sailings in the past, and that continues because of port congestions. The port operations as well as the CFS operations is improving. However, the challenges continue to remain. There is a bit of ambiguity at the moment for import clearances coming in from China. So customs clearance for Chinese imports is a problem as of now. On the air freight, we saw the belly capacities completely disappear because the passenger aircrafts were not moving. So most of the services which are happening are through freighter services or passenger aircrafts converted into freighters. Domestic air freight has resumed with lower work capacities. Space and rates for both air freight is very volatile at the moment. There is congestion at the airports because clearances have not happened as quickly as they were supposed to be. The current situation, we see a huge surge in the demand, and that's why the capacity is being low both for air and ocean. There is an increase in price. There is an equipment imbalance when it comes to ocean freight containers. There is a huge pressure on the stressed infrastructure, whether seaports, airports, CFS. Fear and uncertainty. I think the biggest problem we have in India as of now is the fear element, and due to which you see a lot less number of employees showing up for duty, and that has a direct consequences on the efficiency. There is a need for alignment in the current situation between the service taker and the service provider. Here are some volumes just to give an impression about what happened on the ocean freight. We saw almost 30% reduction in the volumes. These numbers are from Nhava Sheva or JNPT port. So we had last quarter, March to June, we had import volumes reduced by about 300,000 TEUs. For exports, about 260,000 TEUs, overall 500,000 plus TEUs, which is about 30% of the volumes. And JNPT handles about 60% of the country's volume. So what we did at Rhenus, we use our core carrier policies both for air and ocean. We were able to secure capacities for our customers, especially movement of essential goods, medical supplies, and so on. We also did a lot of chartering for our customers. We were organizing customs clearance at all ports. Mostly we saw LCL movements move without any much hindrance. However, due to port congestions, identifying and de-vanning the containers were a big challenge during these times. On the customs clearance, the activities has been ongoing from the lockdown 2.0. However, there has been a reduced workforce at the ports, CFS, even the customs officers were not showing up for duty. What we also saw that wherever the transactions could be completed with minimum human interface were being done. In the last few weeks, we saw increased activity levels. However, manpower shortages are again causing delays. We see a huge surge in the volumes and needs and expectations of the customers. We also saw a lot of customers incur huge amount of detention and damage costs because of delays in clearances and congestions. What we believe that the customers need to align to the new normal and the deliverables under the current situation. And the biggest positive outcome was clearance under digitization process, which the customs launched the Turant scheme, and there was a reduced human interface. In terms of Rhenus capabilities, all our control tower projects were working, though people were working from home. They continued to work with the minimum disruptions. Clearances at all ports happened with increased turnaround times. We had all the necessary permissions for our people to move around during the lockdown times. And our offices were operating with skeletal staff. On the domestic freight, inter and intrastate movement of goods was happening from lockdown 2.0. Movement of trucks initially were a big problem, but now trucks are moving without any hindrance on any of the state borders. However, we see a huge shortage in the trucks as most of the drivers did migrate back to their hometowns. And as we talk, the drivers are returning, but it would take some time before they are back on duty. During this time, mainly the owner-driven trucks were running at full capacity. However, the professional driver-run trucks were coming to a standstill. Going forward, we see a huge challenge in terms of sanitization of the trucks, the medical certificates for the drivers and the helper. We also see a huge commercial impact in the trucking business because of surge in demand, but the capacity is being low. The government of India also increased the price of diesel in the month of June by 20%. That also has an impact on the freight prices. And in terms of Rhenus capabilities, we have been delivering essential, non-essential items pan-India from lockdown 2.0 till date. We have all the requisite permissions from the authorities to move our trucks, and we have been able to provide real-time tracking and updates to our customers. As we just conducted the poll in the beginning of this session, so these are some of the poll results which we did from the webinars which were conducted in the past. So from Indo-Belgium, from Indo-Russia, from Maya-Vidono, from Indo-Spain. And if you look at this, the results are more or less in line with what we saw today. Most of the people have chosen or polled for a normalcy returning in Q4 of 2020. And we at Rhenus also believe that the normalcy would return by Q4 of 2020. On the warehousing side, we saw a huge surge in the demand because most of the items which are imported or manufactured were not consumed. We saw a lull in the demand or the consumption patterns. So customers needed to store the inventories. Most of the customer had requirements for temporary storage for spillovers. In the current situation, working in the warehouse, which is a very highly manual driven warehouses in India, we don't have too much mechanization and automation. Working with social distancing norms is going to be a big challenge. Efficiency and deliverables will have to be aligned under the new normal. So at Rhenus, we work now in some of our warehouses 24/7 to compensate the loss of efficiencies during the days. Rhenus has capabilities of warehousing across the country. We have 30 warehouses. Most of the laborers which work in our warehouses are from the local region. So we have been saved from the migration of labor issues. Because of social distancing norms, as I said, the efficiencies are lower as of now. Our warehouses are equipped with modern material handling equipments, but most of the operations are mainly box in, box out. We have continued business continuity plans. We offer value-added services. We have been facilitating our warehouse has been operational actually from lockdown 2.0, and we have all the requisite permissions from our customers. And we are servicing all the industry verticals. We have also taken additional space to support our customers during lockdown to store the temporary inventory requirements. Yeah, over to you, Frank.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think, Vivek, we also need to keep an eye on the timing, so I'll go through this one quite quickly. So on the Netherlands side, obviously Vivek has explained a little bit how we look at supply chain and supply chain solutions globally. So a lot of what Vivek has mentioned is also applicable for our region. What is interesting, I already mentioned it, is we have several offices, and you'll see a chart later on in the Netherlands. Obviously, one big one in Schiphol and another big one in Rotterdam to cover both air freight and ocean freight wishes and requirements. The Netherlands warehouse is a warehouse that has direct access to the platform, which means that we can build and break down our own ULDs and deliver them directly to the platform, which is a huge benefit from a freight forwarding standpoint compared to a lot of our competition. It also means, as I said already, as I already said in the past, is that our air freight position is quite strong in the Netherlands. On the ocean freight side, obviously Rotterdam being one of the larger ports in the world, we're not in the top 10 anymore, unfortunately, but at least we are top in Europe, which we're already quite proud of. But there's a lot of volume going there, and what we have seen in the Netherlands specifically is that on the air freight side, Corona has had a huge impact, especially as Rhenus, where we have seen a decrease in the shipments because we're very much focused on export business and a little bit less on the inbound business. So the outbound production has come to a standstill. So we've really seen a huge drop. On the ocean freight side has been actually relatively stable. So ocean is still more or less on par. Air freight, after a huge drop, we see a small increase week by week. Warehousing distribution, basically in line with what Vivek has mentioned, and we also have rail and barge solutions. Not so much, obviously, rail and barge between India and the Netherlands, but very much between Asia and Europe. So I'd like to stick to this information for now, just keeping an eye on the timing as well. Vivek, you have to unmute yourself. Vivek, you have to unmute yourself.
Ik kan hem niet unmuten. Ja.
Yeah, there you are, Vivek. Go ahead.
Yeah, so in terms of reality versus the way forward, so what we saw in the last months, that most of the business continuity plans which were there were put through stress tests, because none of the continuity plans would ever have possibilities of working in quarantines or complete lockdowns, etc. So they all went through stress tests. There was a huge impact on the workforce, which is highly ignored in India. So logistics is second largest employer of workforce in India after agriculture. Social distancing norms is very difficult in India with the density of the population we have, and most of the supply chains have either been disrupted or stressed. What we believe for the way forward is that most of the companies, service providers will have to show a lot of flexibility and resilience. We will all have to define the new normal, digitization and process re-engineering, globalization to renationalization with global leaders like Trump, our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, you can say Putin's, Xi Jinping. So they are all defining the globalization again. We will have to get into collaborative logistics. And in India, we have to do a lot of mechanization and automation going forward. Also on the digitization, blockchains will come more into use. So the ports are now accepting the e-documents. Limitations, we see there is a lot of low technology enablement in logistics, especially in India. There is a significant human interface required for each of the processes in India. Most of the workforce is low on education. Infrastructure and adaptability is a challenge here. There is a lack of investments and partnership models. We see a very large workforce deployment here and fear and uncertainty going forward. For an effective supply chain, I think we will have to focus on rebuilding the supply chains. There will be required a strategic involvement from the management for making quick decisions, mainly commercial decisions. There will be a need for holistic view versus trade-offs. Digitization, we spoke about, tools, dashboards, upskilling of the workforce. I think these are some of the key elements on the effective supply chain. Yeah, Frank, you'd like to add something?
Yeah, I'd like to add that I know that you have been working hard and still are working hard on facing the challenges of digitization in your region. Obviously, in Europe, we have the advantage that a lot of this has already happened, and I can assure the people that are listening in that the way that our systems are connected to shippers on the ocean freight side, to air carriers on the air freight side, but also to customs is completely EDI driven. That really helped us also during this COVID period. People could work from home. Everything is digitalized. We don't have any paper files anymore, so it really helped us in that step.
Yeah, and very unlike India, right? So for here, even for customs clearance, you need to physically go to the customs office or the port or the CFS to get clearance of the cargo. So that makes it even more challenging. And I think these times have taught us a lesson, and we need to change that now.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a case study of a project which Rhenus India has undertaken for the Ministry of Health and Red Cross Society and the US Aid, wherein we brought in masks, ventilators, goggles, gloves, temperature meters, protective suits, PPE equipments from various parts of the world, customs clearance, moved them to our warehouse, Rhenus India warehouse in Delhi, storage, segregation, kitting, packing, labeling, and then further distribution to 60 locations across the country. So far, we have handled about 350,000 boxes, which is about 350 million pieces, and moved about 1,700 truckloads of various items across the country.
Yeah, if you look at the case that we would like to present, obviously it's very normal that we would also look at the COVID period. We have handled roughly 22 charters from specifically from China into Europe. Obviously, all of them being very time critical. And what we found being the most important challenge, or the biggest challenge, is the last bullet underneath the benefits. It is that China was constantly changing rules and regulations, and obviously our customers wanted to have regular updates, almost on an hourly basis. Specifically, if you're willing to pay a lot of money for a charter, you want to have top-notch information. And I feel that the way that we've handled it between the different countries in Rhenus is that we managed to simplify what it says here, simplifying the ever-changing situation. It was challenging. It was a great challenge, but it was also an extremely nice learning curve. And I feel that the customers that we have serviced with these roughly 22 charters were all quite happy. On different carriers to different destinations in Europe. I mean, the unique location we have here in Netherlands has really helped there and has proven its benefit.
Yeah. So just the last slide from my side, just talking about Rhenus India. So we are operating out of 69 locations. We are about 1,600 employees. We operate 1.9 million square feet, which is about 190,000 square meters of warehousing space. We are very focused on health, safety, security, environment, and quality. We don't believe in outsourcing activities. We have our own customs license. We own our own equipments of 200 plus trucks. So that's the sum of the Rhenus India organization.
Yeah, we don't have 69 offices in the Netherlands. I mean, we would have buildings in every street then. In the Netherlands, but I think we still have an impressive amount of offices in the Netherlands. You can see it there in the little chart. Obviously, Rotterdam, Schiphol being our two head ones, our biggest ones. But our strategy really is being close to our customers, and I know that not only ourselves but a lot of our competitors are also mentioning that and sharing that with as a unique selling point. But from the chart, in a country like the Netherlands, the size of the Netherlands, you can see that we do have these local offices, and in the last 20, 30 years, it has really proven to be an extremely good way of staying close. I mean, end-to-end solutions, customs clearance, physical representation. I think you would be surprised if we would not have put that on the sheet there. So I won't spend too much time on that. I think that's quite clear. I think really what is unique between the Netherlands and India is the fact, as Vivek has already mentioned, our own structure, our own setup with our own licenses in India and in the Netherlands, which means that we can very quickly adapt to the specific solutions that our customers are looking for. We have done that pre-corona, we have done it in corona, and I'm sure that we will also be able to do that and service that going forward.
Yep. Thanks, Frank. Yeah, so that's all from us, and that's connecting the pieces in your supply chain, and where do you want us to be? So we are happy to take the questions after the session is over. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.
Vivek and Frank, for your excellent oversight of the current situation and your insights in how you are dealing with the situation. We will have one more presentation, and after that we'll have a joint session where we can handle some questions. If you already have a question, feel free to put them in the meeting chat, and then we will pick it up at the end of the session. Thanks again, Vivek and Frank. We will now move on to our next speaker, Michael Westenberg, the founder and managing partner of NXT Group of Companies. And I'm sure they will have also lots of practical insights on how to deal with this tricky situation. Michael, you can unmute yourself and start your presentation if you like.
Oh, thank you very much, Jelke, for the kind introduction. Also, Vivek, Frank, thank you for your insights and sharing your experiences. Give some good learning points. I'll briefly introduce myself and then I'll run through the slides. I kindly ask you to basically, I hope you can see it, read my slides. I will not read all the text which I presented, so that's up to you guys. But a brief introduction from myself. My name is Michael Westenberg, born and raised in the Netherlands. I left my home country for 18 years. So from 2000 till the end of 2017, I lived and worked abroad, and I had the privilege and the fine experience to for 11 years work in the same sector as Vivek and Frank are doing, where ultimately I found myself in Istanbul and decided to support my clients in the logistical sector in different ways. In those days, it was activating sales and local presence on the ground in the Turkish market and growing their business in the Turkish market. Whereas today, we grew this activity in the last 10 years, which is today the NXT Group of Companies, into an organization with presence in Europe, still in Turkey, of course, in India and Colombia. And one of my colleagues from India also is joining this webinar, Victor Eveleens. He was one of the founding fathers of our organization in India in 2007, which became part of the NXT Group of Companies in 2015. So COVID-19 has shaken up the world, and we as NXT are very focused on helping international companies growing their business in emerging and existing international markets. And basically we provide legal infrastructure, sales infrastructure and resources on the ground in these emerging markets to grow the business of our partners. And we always grow the business of our partners in their name and their local presence. And this has been quite a challenge in India, to be very honest and frank. So we heard indeed all the issues of the lockdown. We heard the unknown factors from Vivek. If you talk about ocean freight, if you talk about huge air freight, they all had a huge impact on our partners and our business in India, especially since we provide the infrastructure. Well, we can be very negative, and if you read the news, and especially as a Dutch person or European person, if you read the news about India, you're almost getting afraid to do any more sales and business there, because yeah, you read stories like the food chain has broken, Flipkart starts to do deliveries with cabs, and yeah, sea and air freight capacity has dropped and prices are soaring. Well, the last one on air freight I can definitely confirm. So basically, supply chains have disrupted from Europe into India. Well, yes, it has disrupted, but the ongoing discussion we started immediately as of March with all our partners is, let's stop with thinking negative. Let's stop with looking at traditional distribution networks, and let's stop with thinking that the current way of supplying your goods to India will come back in the short term. Because if you think and expect that in the short run you will be able to supply your products and goods in a normal and old-fashioned way into the Indian market, you're basically increasing the risks for your companies. So we have been discussing with our partners, what can we do together, or what can NXT do in India to still grow and increase the presence of our partners in the Indian market. Now, then working from home and digitization is definitely not enough. But what we have been focusing on together with partners from the machine industry, from the spare parts business, from performance materials like bakery ingredients or chemicals, or a large portfolio of FMCG goods, we have been discussing with them how, through digital channels, can we give your clients in India the feeling that we support them and together we are supporting your business. Well, that has worked out quite fine, to be very frank, for us and for our partners in India, because I think the biggest difference between Europe and India is that Indian people are quite digitized. So the fact that Indian people were open to receive support and sales and ongoing discussions through digital methods was very well and very quickly adapted. Where even in the Netherlands, we sometimes lag behind on that. Also, activating multi-channel sales is a route we took. So one of the biggest discussions we had internally with our partners in the heavy industrial machine equipment sales, we said, let's start to sell your and offer your equipment online in India. Well, that was all very skeptical, but basically our Indian team came up with this idea. And since I think 2 or 3 months, we are selling equipment for the industrial food or food processing industry and logistics sector online. And another move we have made on the FMCG sector is that we said, let's decentralize stock positions. And what we have asked from all our partners and my crew internally, let's start flip thinking. And flip thinking we call in Holland omdenken. And I truly believe and personally believe that this has become a new required managerial skill set to run still the business in COVID-19 times. But let's put all the negative aside. Also, there's a lot of good things happening in India because the e-commerce sector is booming. Manufacturing potential in India is there, but many discussions are going on since China faced such a huge lockdown. Can India be the next manufacturing hub? And I have to say, in our discussions with our partners, these opportunities are already discussed, and we are already asked to think about strategies on how we can support them in the future in their presence in India to take care and capitalize on these upcoming opportunities. So what we believe is that multi-channel sales plus supplying your goods through multi-channels is the new future in India. And I truly believe that we need to get free, and we need to help companies to get free from their existing business processes and existing distribution methods and existing sales channels. Because COVID-19 and even after COVID-19, I think we as companies, if we want to remain sustainable and operating on an international level, we need to step away from the way we have been doing business. So the flip thinking thing, we need to think in the opportunities and not in problems. Yes, we need to embrace digitization. Yes, we need to embrace multi-channel sales. But what I think is one of the biggest hurdles to overcome when speaking to many European companies on supplying and selling goods to markets like India, is that a lot of the companies and people in Europe, and especially the Netherlands, are rusted up. We hear a lot of arguments about, yeah, we have been doing this for the last 20 years in a successful way, but COVID-19 will pass and we can continue as it is. Or our foreign agents and distributors in India, they are responsible for our business in India, not us. And I think all these kind of rusted up statements, we need to support and get the European companies out of and guide them in new ways on how to sell and deliver products into India. As such, some examples we have been discussing and implementing is that we see a huge opportunity for European companies in the online sales channels. Many European companies just supply products to an importer or a distributor in India, and they expect them to sell online. Whereas as a European company, you can get direct access to all these online marketplaces in India, which is a booming market. But the most important thing is then, how do you line up your supply chain and your logistical infrastructure to supply the goods properly into India? Well, over the last 2-3 months, we have been ramping up our FMCG client portfolio, which we have products in female hygiene, in cosmetics, in food products, and started to list them in massive volumes on Indian channels like Flipkart, Snapdeal, and Big Basket. And ultimately leading us there also into a direction to decentralize stock to still ensure that Indian consumers can get their products. Another thing, and that is really one of Victor's, my colleague in India's crown jewels, is the installation of one of our clients, which is an American company called CPM, of pellet mills in the animal feed and biomass sector, has been done completely digitally. So we're doing it through instructions videos, live feeds throughout India, still maintaining inspections, commissioning, and spare part replacement. But again, supplying the parts from decentralized stocks in India has been shown as a proper solution. Another thing is that a lot of the Dutch seed, flower and vegetable seed manufacturers and producers are producing all over the world. So the client base in India has been growing, also in China, and we have supported them with creating on-demand videos with drones in the glass houses in Europe so that they are visible for Indian clients. And another thing is that for especially in the e-commerce sector, since the volumes are ramping up in distribution centers of Amazon, Flipkart, and Snapdeal, there's a lot of shortage of OEM equipment. And also one of the things Victor did with some of our partners in the Netherlands is make by video and through a virtual engineering team a knowledge plus equipment available for these Indian companies. And again, we saw that sea freight shipping in this particular project has been the best solution because air freight rates have been soaring and basically are killing the competitiveness of many European companies. So as a summary, I truly believe that the Indian market potential is still there, but it is up to us and up to all of us, including logistics sector and business people, to flip think and come with new ways on how to still maintain and develop the trade relations between Europe, the Netherlands, and India. But definitely potential is there. And I think we still have a lot of challenges ahead. Jelke, that was my contribution.
Well, thank you very much. I think you had a very nice presentation, but you told us everything about it. Maybe we can share it later if people want to reread it. Now we have some time for some questions. Maybe somebody in the audience has a current practical problem. This is your opportunity to ask it to the people who have real practical experience. You can ask the question in the chat, and then I will give the word to you and you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, Jelke, I see somebody raising the hand actually. Yeah, it's gone.
Then please just unmute yourself and you can ask the question.
Yeah, good morning to everyone in Netherlands and good afternoon to everyone in India. I'm Dr. Basanna from Bangalore. I have a question to the whole team. In the Indian context, what happened is during the lockdown period, a lot of people looked at uncertainty and then, like most of the countries, they went on buying unnecessary things as well as they bought more than what they wanted. So with that, what happened is there was a shortage of certain essentials to it. It was like a distribution unevenly. Somebody who never wanted, they piled it up, and somebody who wanted, they could not get it. So is there any way we can use a technology or, especially the analytics part to kind of predict and look at, what are those critical things which are required, and in case if any unexpected event happens in the future, can we kind of, be ready to face that kind of a uneven, availability of products to the consumers?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it was a question to the group, but it's an analytical question, I would say, in a way. And I think things like big data analysis, etc., would come into play. I would also think that the outcome of that analysis for countries like India compared to specific countries in Europe are going to be quite different, because I think the needs will also be different. I know that my Dutch colleagues will remember the enormous amount of toilet paper that was bought in the first four weeks of the corona, whilst the warehouses were full of toilet paper. So I'm not sure what analysis would come out of that big data analysis, but for sure, hopefully, this enormous drive to buy a specific product would stop. So from a logistics point of view, I think I have very little to add to your specific question. I think it's more a way of finding the right people with the right knowledge to run some analysis on the big data.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I also have a question. Maybe you can give us some practical tips on how to prepare. Wave is coming later this year. So what would be your tips to keep our logistics running as best as possible, considering what we've learned from the first wave?
And if you would look, and then sorry, Vivek, I was just a little bit quicker than you were, and I will be frank, because I am frank. I think that one of the experiences that we have all encountered, from the experience that we have all encountered, I think it's time to really sit down with the right partners to evaluate what has gone wrong and what has gone right, and what was missing during this sudden crisis in the beginning of this year. I mean, I think there's a huge amount of lessons learned. I mean, I think from creativity and flexibility, we found ways to manage it, but obviously that can never be the way forward. So if a second wave would come, I think we can all be prepared if you sit down with the right people, really analyze what was going right and wrong in the first quarter or the first half of this year, and be prepared.
Yeah, and also, what actually took everybody by storm was the abruptness of the whole thing. If you look at India, for example, I can talk about this. On the 24th of March evening, our Prime Minister came on live on TV and he said, from tonight, midnight, we are going in for a lockdown. That it could have been managed. We had only about 600 cases then. What would have happened better would be that he was on the TV saying, okay, guys, we will need a lockdown. We will have a lockdown from 8 days from now or 7 days from now. And then people could have prepared and planned better. Number one. Number two, I think in terms of an Indian context, connectivity or working from home never existed in the culture. Work from home culture has been in Europe for quite some time, but not from in Indian environment. Here, people were clocked on the number of hours they put, not on the targets and goals that were set for them. So I think we have also realized that now we need to work more, which is driven on your daily to weekly to fortnightly to monthly targets and goals. So I think that also allows you to do these things better. In terms of logistics, I think the whole process of digitization has started in terms of companies being able to create dashboards for themselves, set up control towers, able to manage things with the minimum human interface. So it will take a lot of time before we gear up for something like this. But yes, at least this times have taught us that we could exist and continue to function with lesser efficiency. If 24th somebody did ask, the thought process was everything will come to a standstill tomorrow. But in reality, that did not happen. So I think, yeah, there's not much you can do, but you have to prepare. And I think digitization and flexibility and resilience is the only way forward. Yeah, that's the only way forward, because we don't know whether we are talking about wave 2, wave 3, what is the situation, or we have a vaccine around the corner. Sometimes you read about Russia, sometimes about Indian vaccine. So yeah, you have to wait and watch now. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Michael, you have also something to add to this.
Yeah, I wanted to add something to your question, Jelke. I think, well, definitely Vivek said it in the right way. You know, it's all very uncertain, but let's be frank, you cannot grow and build your business in India based on uncertainties, and especially not if you're a European exporter or a European company who has sales presence in India. So also we know we're living in July, so in 2 months the budget rounds at big corporations for 2021 are starting. So I think the biggest question what a lot of businessmen and business people, women and business people will have in the coming months is, will we write off sales potential for India in 2021, or will we continue, and if yes, how? Well, our biggest claim, and Victor, one of my colleagues, is always very harsh in that. He says you don't write off the Indian sales opportunity. We don't write it off. We need to think now, how can we maintain the sales levels? And I think coming to the answer to your question is, what we are discussing with our partners is, how can you assure you remain on the expected sales levels in India? There's basically only one answer: plan, but plan more ahead and ship now, because autumn is coming. We don't know what the COVID-19 effects will be in autumn on the European side. We don't know how it will develop further in India, but we do know Indians will continue to consume, Indians will continue to produce. So get your parts, get your products into India, not in batches per quarter or per 6 months, but try to build up a regular supply chain and get the goods there. And that is what we have been working on putting into place basically in the last, I think, 6 to 8 weeks with our spare parts partners and FMCG partners.
Yeah, that's a good tip. So you would recommend to build some stock now in India while it's possible, to prepare for a possible second wave when logistics might come to a standstill again.
Jelke, I have a question for Vivek, actually.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. So my name is Victor Evelings. I'm one of the partners in the NXT Group, and been in India since 2008 now, so already 12 years, handling a lot of shipments for a lot of our partners, as Michael described. And one thing, Vivek, that you mentioned is that right now the tension and demurrage charges are going up because of all the backlog in the customs.
Yes.
We especially see that for FMCG products or food products that need to be tested by the labs, the FSSAI and stuff. And in the meantime, that meter is running, right, on your detention and demurrage. Now, this is, of course, if you do a cost price forecast for your landed cost in your products, how they're going to arrive in the Indian market, this is going to disrupt on how your sales margins are going to hold up. Now, what I wonder is there certain initiatives from the government or certain initiatives from the customs and logistics companies to see if there are potential waivers or things that they can lobby for to make sure that this is less of an impact on the exporter?
Yeah, actually, this has turned out to be so initially the government had announced that there would be no detention and demurrage charges levied by the shipping lines and the port authorities. That was rolled on and it continued from March into April. From April, it was extended further to May. In May, the government realized that all the ports and the CFS were highly congested. So the government, I was in touch personally with the Secretary of Logistics from the government department, and the government thought it was like a double-edged sword. You know, if you give detention and damage waivers to the customers, it leads to congestion. And if you do not, and you start charging damage and detention, the customer is ultimately the consignee pays a huge amount.
Yeah.
So then they chose to actually let the consignees suffer because if the port congestion continued, they would not be able to dock any more vessels. So that's why we had a lot of blank sailings in the country, and vessels were missing the calls because there were no place for the vessels to berth. So over the last months, if I can share with you, personally at Rhenus India, for our customers, we would have outlaid huge amount of detention damage charges which they have incurred because there was no way out for them. And especially when you have food imports, which goes into various FSSI laboratories and checking and tests and so on, there is very little you could do actually. The only option is to bond the cargo, de-van the cargo and bond the cargo. But then the problem is whether it's a temperature control cargo, finding the bond space in the warehouses was a big challenge because of congestions. So yes, sorry, can't help you much there, but I think that's a problem we have as an infrastructure issue, you know. And yeah, as Michael said, you know, today you can stock in India. There are a lot of opportunities like using the free trade zones, like using the bonded warehouses. We have some very good facilities in India, including what Rhenus has, which can store different kind of cargoes. Yeah. So if there's anything, Victor, we could connect offline and we could have a discussion around this. But yes, to your question, there is no solution and government will not step in to help because that will only lead to a bigger problem for them.
Yeah, it will. Okay, thanks for that, Vivek. But let's definitely connect offline as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we have time for one or two more questions. So if you have a question, you can unmute yourself and speak up.
Marianne, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Greetings from Bangalore and the Cambridge Institute of Technology. I was really impressed by the story of Michael and stop negative thinking and try to see the opportunities. And you were talking about multi-channel sales and also new business models. But what struck me is the flip thinking, in Dutch omdenken. We all know, especially you guys, what the difference is in culture between the Netherlands and in India. And of course, we get used to the various paradigms of the thinking, and that's very interesting. But my question to Michael is, how did you manage the flip thinking thing in India?
I will make a statement now, but Victor, jump in if you disagree with me. But to be honest with you, with Dutch boldness. So I'm coming from the north of Holland, so we are very black and white. And if you want to be part of the NXT crew, you need to show the ability to think in different ways and create solutions for our partners and create solutions outside of the box. And if you're not willing to do that and stick into a fixed pattern and paradigm, you basically cannot join the team. And this has been a very tough discussion internally, to be very frank, because Victor says, yeah, you know, in general, young, educated Indian people who we employ a lot and who I really cherish and love, they are educated in a fixed thinking way, and it is very difficult for them to sometimes adapt into that. But coming back to your question and answer in a Dutch bold way, you either adjust or you don't, because we need to add value to the business we are running for our partners.
Thank you very much, Michael. I really recognize your style. I'm born in Rotterdam, and sometimes I take that flavor not only to Bangalore, but also in Delhi. And to be honest, it works very well. Not too long, sometimes with a lot of humor, but it works.
I agree.
I agree.
Vivek, I told you so.
Yeah. So Frank is also born in Rotterdam, right?
Well, not really Rotterdam, but I understand the directness that they were referring to. Absolutely.
It's a nice city. It's a nice city, Frank.
Great. If there are no more questions, I would like to give the virtual microphone to Edith, our chairman, for some closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Jelke. Thanks for the great session. Thanks, Vivek, Frank, Victor, Michael, and all the participants for this great overview of challenges and opportunities in transportation through different ways. I did like this flip thinking thing, Michael. I must say this is something I'm taking with me. I also just Googled that the founder of flip thinking, of the idea, was Bertolt Gunster. He's a Dutch guy, so we did really good things. And he wrote a book which is called Yes, But What If It All Works Out? So I would say I would rather encourage everybody to go for try to make it all work out. One of the findings that we can certainly see from today, first of all, it is wonderful to have such experts on this panel, and also to know that you're there for us doing business in the corridor, which means that experts are taking care of your business. We are stubborn as Dutch. We know that. It has brought us far away, you know, and it has brought us quite some good things in life for centuries already. But it has also shown us that stubbornness by itself cannot help you to get your business done, especially not in India. Therefore, you need to make use of your network. We all know it, but this session of today shows it again. Please make use of all these wonderful experts we have, that we work with, that we, you know, let you feel and touch in these sessions, which is wonderful, which gives you the opportunity to have a better chance in being bold and being successful at the same time. There have always been challenges in the India-Netherlands corridor. There will always be challenges in doing business. But use the specialists and the experts, and use in working together. I also very much like the interaction between Victor and Vivek in seeing, okay, how can we, you know, what can you tell us? How can we do our business better? Please keep doing this work. Thank you very much for sharing it with us and for being there with us and for us. And please keep us posted on every program, on progress along the way, because we need it. And as it was already said, and as we truly believe, there will always be opportunity between the Netherlands and India and vice versa. Don't give up on doing business together. Keep doing this. But, and that's part of flip thinking, don't think without acting, and don't act without thinking. Thank you very much to you all. Have a wonderful day, have a wonderful summer, and stay with us also in the next things that we are organizing for you. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Thanks for these moments.
Very much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Edith, for your inspiring words. We will keep this call open for a few more minutes. So if you would like to ask something to one of the speakers or to each other, feel free. And otherwise, I would again like to thank our excellent speakers and hope that we can soon return to a normal situation regarding our logistic issues, or be better prepared with these new insights. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, NICCT.
Thank you.